Hey guys, how are you today?
Are we on?
I think
Yeah,
so.
we
I
are.
think we do that. So we have to
Fridays.
act normal.
Still so wonderfully exciting. I'm well. I'm well. I'm well. I'm well. I don't even know who I'm talking to, or we're live and everything. I guess.
Yeah, we are. I see
Okay.
everyone here.
Good. 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 Good.
Well, I am Daria. I am the DevRel, and then I also think why Ivan is in control of the presentation. So he will be doing the slides for us, and he's the community manager. And then you guys can go ahead, maybe like introduce yourself, and also tell us what your companies and your projects are doing and stuff like that.
Fabulous. Well, Nick, do you want to go first? Oh, it's me on the screen. Maybe I should jump on. I'm quite happy to.
Yeah, let's go on.
I'll jump on. Well, guys, firstly, thank you very much for this. This is we were just saying just before we went live. I've been in entrepreneurship for 20 years. I've been in the blockchain since 2017, which is almost like 20 years in blockchain. And I still love the fact that we can do things like this, communicate around the world. I'm in London here. So hello to you wherever you are in the world, whatever time zone it is you are in. But long story short, my name is Chris. I'm the co-founder of something very exciting called Locked Money. I'll give you the 30-second overview. Essentially, Locked Money it's a digital asset management platform. Think of your Coinbases of the world. Think of your Binances of the world. We're doing the same thing, only that we have many more advantages. Firstly, it's self-custodial, so users always have access to their own assets. One thing we really want to do is try and help encourage growth in this industry. And for that to happen, it's easy for, I think, many of us to forget, we're on this call. We have been in this space for a long time, but most of my friends, when I speak to them about blockchain or crypto or digital assets or on-chain, they look at me as if I've grown a second head. They've no idea what I'm talking about. So we have to make it simple. And also, I'd argue, you have to make it entertaining and enjoyable as well. So Locked Money is essentially a digital asset management platform where users can store and manage and protect their digital assets. We've got loads of benefits like debit cards for users, on and off ramping from traditional finance. And we have an AI assistant that every user has as well, which of course we'll be talking a little bit more about on this call. But Locked Money, if you want to check it out, locked.money. And that's my 30-second intro over. But it's a pleasure to be here with everybody.
Yeah, Chris, you're so excited that I feel pressured to match this level of excitement.
Come on, Nick. We believe in
all
you.
right.
We believe in you.
Breathe in, breathe out. So yeah, hi, I'm Nick. I'm the co-founder at Mimetic. We started as the platform to create the most authentic agents based on your social media profile. And now we have pivoted into creating synthetic audiences for product research, marketing research, and, well, general research. Think of it as spawning your audience on the fly to test your ideas, to do it even on the call, maybe a call like this one.
Wow.
Or for any new or even old products. So I have experience writing software for blockchain industry since 2021. I started with fun little NFT PFP projects, and then we started implementing machine learning back then to, well, very naive algorithms compared to what we are doing right now. And I've been an entrepreneur for almost 15 years already, and Mimetic is what I'm working on full time right now.
Great. Nice to meet you, Nick.
Nice to meet you, Chris.
Yeah, great to meet you both, guys, finally on video. And I think we are just going to go into our questions. So the first one is about using AI in your dev process. So I'm personally also a developer, and I have used AI, and I am super interested to know your perspective, because I personally found that it can be very, very helpful. For example, with big mono repos, or with some JavaScript, with a backpack and stuff. There are some things that I personally don't like to do, like writing webpack config, or maybe something doesn't work in the npm or yarn setup. It kind of is easier to fix with AI. But also I found that when you constantly rely on it, you do lose a lot of skills, and at some point you might even be like, oh, I don't remember how to write a simple function declaration or something, because you're just pressing away a tab. So kind of everything is good, but then when you don't have internet, or maybe I don't know, your favorite AI model is down, you're kind of stuck at trying to write something but it's very, very slow. So I am super interested to know what's your perspective. And I think we're going to start with, let's start with Nick.
All right. Yeah, that's. I think you touched upon the crucial points everyone is concerned about right now. Well, first, I think there are already offline models, and Qwen 2.5 is not too bad at code completion. So we can safely say that even if Claude is down, something is still going to work, right? I've been writing code for a long time. However, I'm not a programmer per se. And unfortunately, my CTO could not make it here. Well, his name is a magician, and he's a magician of code. But I'm writing a healthy amount of code for personal projects and for our project. I can safely say that I stopped using Cursor mostly because of this, malicious loop of tab, doing like everything. And you're also absolutely right. For monorepos, it works better. It works much better for JavaScript. For anything else, like for Rust, it's in my experience, it doesn't work too well. And I even stopped using Cursor because it's context understanding, in my opinion, stops at some point. What I do right now is I use Grok. Because to help me figure out the technical description of what I'm going to write, like the technical document that I'm going to feed to the next models. But I mean, that's my process. I'm using Grok. It's not too bad at it. What I discovered is it's very easy to tell it, hey, ask me repeated questions until you completely understand the whole scope of work. And then I'm passing this scope to something like Claude 3.7 within Visual Studio Copilot. And Copilot is not as advanced as Cursor, and that's why I like it, because it allows me to still keep at least minor understanding of what's going on. And I used Cursor and Windsurf on a number of my existing repos. I mean, the things that it did with some of those repos, it's really cool that we have version control, and I could roll back. In my opinion, but that's just one part of the process. A couple of years ago, when we still had GPT 3.5, even not GPT 3, what I did, and I was running a animation studio for like close to 10 years, and it just emerged because of the amount of code I wrote myself for the animation to streamline the process. So I set up a simple RAG vector database search to ingest all our briefs, all the scripts that my studio produced, like more than 100 of animated videos. And I was able to, like with a great pain and the amount of time, create this website that allowed anyone to create a script and storyboards for the video. Right now, these things can be done in a win. Like you can just go to GPT or the neural model is so good. So we we use the tool for a bit, but as time progressed, since Mimetic is very visually heavy, we have AI agents that rely on visuals a lot. So I'm not only using AI in the development process. We are using it for visual style development. Our lead artist right now is doing some things, manually, but I don't know where we merged already. And we set up a process for him to easily train LoRa's. We set up a custom nodes and points and even front end for an artist to work on the specific project. So we use it left, right, and center. And I can't say for the CTO, but from what I see, he's using very heavily all those models. I hope that answers the question. So yeah, Chris, now to you.
I was nervous you were going to hand that over to me. Frankly,
I can yap for 10 maybe more minutes.
Same here. If you need help yapping, I think we can.
Well, look, guys, I got to be totally transparent with you, beautiful humans here. I'm not a coder. I'm not a developer. And so I even knew before this AMA, when I saw the questions were like from a developer's point of view, I said to Neon, I'm happy to talk about this from an entrepreneurial, from an onboarding, from a user's perspective, from a founder's perspective, and maybe I could speak about that for a few moments time. But you guys are the guys with the brains and the smarts here. When you're talking about coding on a blockchain and stuff, it's like that is not my skill set. And, I think anybody in business knows what they are, what are they good at, and they should do that effectively. So I don't know whether this is slightly dodging the question, but I'm happy to jump in all the same and explain how we're using AI to onboard users rather than developers. Would that be of interest or?
Oh, yes.
I think we have it like further down the line, actually. We have like a next question about that.
Okay, well,
but I'm just curious, like, are you using, like, do you do vibe coding, as they call it? Like, do you use AI maybe to generate like a POC really, really fast as a non-technical person, or you're not really familiar with that?
Let me just quickly message our CTO and ask him all those questions.
Okay. No, I'm also super curious about like non-technical people, because I think basically the fact that you can do something really, really fast, even if you're not that familiar, it's also super cool. So that's always interesting to hear.
Well, having the AI integration has been it's been game changing in our business already. We only had our TGE about 6-7 weeks ago, and it's already helped hugely with man hours. And my big thing is educating people in this space, because as I said earlier, for we really want to really help grow this space, this blockchain space, particularly with the bull market when it eventually kicks off. And the only way we're going to do that, all of us, is if we can make it as simple as possible. There's a great rule in marketing, as I'm sure you've heard, a confused mind never buys. If a new user is going to come to any of our products, doesn't matter what we're talking about, and they get a bit confused or they're not too sure, they're gone. We've lost them. And so with my marketing head on, I know that we can now use AI to simplify the process and also onboard and indoctrinate users so they get to know a little bit of the product, they get comfortable, they get a little bit of confidence. And, that's what we're using AI for. But maybe I preempted the next question.
Yeah, I think you actually answered, like, how do you look into AI from users' perspective?
Okay, I can talk about
how
that
it
more.
benefits day by day. Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to jump into that more, or back to you, Nick, or whatever you guys want.
No, I just wanted to add that actually having a non-developer's perspective is so much more valuable, because for me, like what you say, I can't switch heads as easily. Sometimes I find myself stuck in the loop of just programming for the programming's.
Do you know, sorry to interrupt you. I really appreciate you saying that. My CTO and CEO have said the same, that it's actually good, because you can be so close to something, and I can be the same with marketing. You can be so close to something, can't you? You can't kind of see it from a new user's point of view. And again, what we're talking about here is really granular. I mean, if we spoke about this outside of this bubble, again, you'll think of your friends in the real world that know nothing about this. They'd look at you and they're like, Nick, what are you even talking about? So again, I always go into everything with marketing and growth in mind. We really want to grow lot of money. And we're only going to do that, as in all good marketing. What is marketing? Marketing is essentially communicating your message to the person in the language that they need to hear so that they understand it. And you only get one chance. You never get that second chance to make that first impression. So I always kind of, maybe sometimes to my detriment, I always boil everything down to the lowest common denominator. I always say to our CTO, our CEO, to our COO, everyone, I say, how can we make it simpler? I think Richard Branson says the same thing in his autobiography. He was saying, I need to make it simpler. I need to make it simpler. I need to make it simpler.
What? I have a, I can support this point, but I also, from my personal experience, I can have a minor objection to simplification. So in my opinion, like, it's not too bad to make things simpler, but it's twofold, right? It's of course we want more technical users, more tech-savvy users, to also feel catered to and be able to do things that they used to do with more complex systems. But simplification cuts off a lot of pro features sometimes. And it also breeds the new, it encourages the new breed of users that are used to one-click solutions without even thinking about the underlying, what the underlying tech stack. It's not too bad, but it opens the avenues for malicious actors. Like right now, most of the attacks are on blockchain, might be linked to social engineering. with the users that are, well, they just they don't have to have appreciation, but one-click solutions make it appear that everything is simple, but everything is not. Everything becomes much more complex, and the problem is both communicating the complexity and also making things simpler. I don't know where I'm on this spectrum. I'm just sharing my concerns.
No, I think we're saying the same thing. I think from a communication, you just said the keyword, a communication point of view. For our point of view, if we want to onboard new users, it has to be simple. Now, that's not at all saying that there's not complexities, under the hood, of which there completely are. It's the swan on the lake, isn't it? It's all smooth above the surface, but below, it's paddling like crazy. And so I guess I'm and I'm enjoying this conversation with you, Nick. I guess we're coming at it from a slightly different perspective. I'm coming at it from a new user's perspective that is probably not that, when I say not that tech savvy, you might be aiming more. You need to know who your core market is. We know who our core market is, and it's traders, and it's people that want to get involved in this space, and even traders that are advanced are not particularly technically advanced. We've got lots of KOLs, key opinion leaders, supporting us, and the questions that I've been asked are incredibly basic. I'm thinking, wow, you're supposedly advanced. So I guess what I'm saying here is it's easy for all of us, again, to forget what we know about this space. And again, with my marketing head on, I want to keep things simple to bring users on board, and let's bury, in inverted commas, all the complexities. I'll let our technical team do that behind the scenes, but on the surface, we want to make it as user-friendly as possible. Because again, as I said this earlier, a confused mind, if anybody comes to your website or your Gitbook or your Discord and they get confused, they've gone. You've lost them. People are busy. There's a reason why Instagram videos are 15 seconds. People don't have time these days. And so you've got to realize that. I'm not saying you, Nick, personally, but one's got to realize that from a marketing perspective. And so we want to indoctrinate people by making them feel welcome and engaged and, dare I say, entertained, and let the technical side of it kind of almost be something that's irrelevant, that just works behind the scenes.
Yeah, to me, listening to this discussion is super interesting. I think it really depends on the audience, and it sounds like you both kind of I guess in this context, you both mean simple as of smooth, though obviously some harder concepts are more take longer time to introduce, but doesn't mean that the onboarding experience has to be bad or inconvenient. So I think I agree with you both in this regard. So let's jump over to our next question, which is, what are the biggest challenges developers face when entering the blockchain space, and how AI can help overcome them? So again, we are interested to hear both from the technical perspective, and also not so technical perspective. Maybe not even if you, Nick, could speak to developers, that would be great. But we're also from Chris, we would love to hear maybe about the users. If you have noticed any differences between users and developers from Web 2 coming to Web 3, and maybe for me, probably the biggest challenge, thinking back when I just started, I think the ecosystem was not as developed, the documentation was not so good compared to maybe Web 2 stuff that I was using back then. So that was an adjustment. Maybe you could both guys speak to that. Just bring up anything that you're aware of and how you think that AI can help overcome those challenges. So we'll start with Chris here.
Thank you. I would say the biggest challenge, and we haven't really had that many challenges from an AI perspective. In fact, we found it absolutely effortless. But the one thing that does spring to mind is your AI is only going to be as good as you train it to be, essentially. And so in our case, there was the onboarding of the AI to be as specific as we wanted. So we can free up our time, whether it's, I don't know, customer support, adding a widget to our website, having our AI in our Telegram community, things like that have been absolute godsends to us. They've given us so much time back to not deal with, it's the Pareto principle, isn't it? 80% of the questions are going to be the same sort of questions. But our AI can only really answer those effectively based on how good we train our AI. And so I guess the challenge was seeing the answers that our AI was giving after we've trained, realizing that maybe we haven't trained enough, and then just being on the lookout for not 100% accurate answers our AI brain was giving, catching those and going back into the back end, if you like, and editing out bits and making sure that things were. I'll give you an example, a very quick example. So one thing that we can offer at Locked Money is we have a legal framework, which sounds very technical. And all this essentially means is if somebody comes on board, we've got a free plan and a paid plan. If somebody comes upon our paid plan, they have access to this legal framework. And this legal framework has many, many benefits. I won't go through them all now, but one of them is it can potentially, depending on where you are in the world, but it works for most people, reduce your tax bill, your capital gains tax bill, which is obviously a huge benefit. And we need to be very careful how we articulated that. And so training our AI to understand the intricacies of tax ramifications around the world so it could communicate effectively was one of our challenges. So that's kind of where we are. But I have to say, as I said at the beginning, I'm blown away. And the guys that we use for AI, I spoke to them only just before this call. They must think I'm like some sort of like starry-eyed, like, fanboy, because I'm just like, guys, what you're doing is incredible. I find it absolutely mind-blowing. So anyway, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. And what about you, Nick? Do you have any, like, I guess, unique experience, like, regarding to maybe develop, like, entering blockchain space as, like, more of a dev person?
Oh, yes. While I definitely can support some of the points by Chris, I will focus more on the development side. And again, with the caveat that I'm not a pro developer, I think I will fail most of the technical interviews to Fortune 500 or whatever.
Maybe same here. No worries.
No, not even in the junior level.
Topic, like, that's literally not the reason to think you're not a developer. But
yeah,
that we can discuss.
And I think a couple of years ago, maybe 5 to 10 years ago, the word hacker was used more in this context. Like, it's not that hacker that someone is hacking things for white hat or black hat, but someone who's just tinkering with the technologies. So I tend to think of myself as this person. And again, what I said is that I started tinkering with blockchains in 2021. When, as you remember, the large language models were not available. I think the largest we had was BERT, and it was not LLM. And you had to read the documentation. Those were the times, right? But even now, and recently, I stumbled upon a peculiar issue trying to write something for Ton blockchain. They do have some documentation, but as you read it, it doesn't make much sense. And even if you feed it to the AI, it's still not good at, well, of course, the writing smart contracts is out of the question. I don't know who vibe codes their smart contracts. Good luck to them. But even using the blockchain, even having the documentation, sometimes it is quite hard. It is good for, well, again, for EVMs, for Solana, it's a bit easier, because there's so many pages of the documentation and AI ingested them all. For fringe things like Ton, or for newer emergent networks, it's very hard. So this is the hurdle, I think, from the DevRel perspective. If you want to onboard the next 1,000 developers, 10,000 developers, I imagine you should have a very competent AI assistant that knows your stuff, that knows your tech stack, and that does not hallucinate. At least doesn't hallucinate too much. Because, I think some of the blockchains and newer stacks would definitely benefit from it. We were approached by some newer ones, like, hey, do something. I won't call names, but then you get to the developer chat on Telegram, and what people do is they are being sour over documentation, being not available, but things not work as they are described. And you might have seen during this number of times, maybe dozens of times. So this, for me, is the biggest hurdle. So if we want to bring more developers, we have to do things on a whim. It's like a snap.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. I definitely agree. I don't have much experience with the Telegram docs, but I believe you. I think it's a big issue because I used to think that like if I read the docs and I didn't understand how it works, I was like, oh my God, I am really dumb. I like should not be an engineer because I don't understand like what is happening here. And now I understand that's like so not true. That like documentation is there to make it smoother for you. And if you don't understand, like I also had experience with another company, also won't call names, but I read their docs and I'm like, okay, I have no idea how to integrate it into my app still.
I love your honesty.
Yeah, so
Everybody
I
feels
realized
like
it's
that,
literally not my fault, which was super helpful. And also we had like a very insightful space with the Devrel from Swell, who's also really, really into docs. And he mentioned one interesting thing that docs now need to cater not only to people but also to AI. Like they need to be good. They need to be well composed to be indexed. So that's also something interesting stuff to think about. Yeah, I guess our next question is like again more developer oriented. It's like how can AI powered tools simplify development process? But also from my personal view, I'm like I know there's like they can simplify it and there's vibe coding, which we already touched on a little bit, but like then there's also vibe debugging that is not so fun. So
Yeah,
I'm very curious to hear about that as well.
I think vibe debugging is the thing that kills you. It's incredibly hard. What I discovered, even for my smaller stuff, is that you just have to write at least some tests manually. And when you have test framework that you at least understand, then it becomes so much easier. I mean the question. I think the question, the answer to your question, can AI powered tools simplify development process? Of course, yes. But I mean, in what ways? So I really like the concepts of the constraint theory. It's a theory from I think 1980s, developed for mostly for industrial applications, but of course it just scales to the software development. As soon as we solve one bottleneck, we don't solve bottlenecks, we move them around. As soon as we solve something, like let's say we can now produce more code, now the problem is who do we sell it to? Or now the problem is we'll discover so much more problems. Oh, like the website runs now has 10 more features, but the problem is with our databases. The problem with the databases, now we have to communicate this and that. So we just throw bottlenecks around. And and I think we have to be mindful about it. That smaller teams, more agile teams can develop more in the limited time frame. That's absolutely correct. But now we have to think, who do we sell to? How do we communicate all that? And it's intricate balance. Chris, do you have any?
Yeah.
On that?
I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. As a fellow Englishman once said, Isaac Newton, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, isn't there? So, you're going to do something, it's going to knock something else out down the road. So let me look at the screen here. Onboarding, was it helping? What's the actual question regarding users? Onboarding process regarding users. So we have, thank you for putting it back there. Yeah, I mean, using AI in our onboarding process for users has been, again, it's made such a huge difference. So I'll give you a specific example. One of the things that Lot Money does, as the name kind of suggests, is we want to allow users to protect and secure their digital assets. Particularly, as I mentioned, with the bull run coming up, this could be worth an awful lot of money, and even on exchanges, it's not self-custodial, as we all know, yada yada yada. So we educate on that, and one of the ways that we do this is we have multi-signature vaults that are available for every user. They can have as many as they want on different blockchains within the Lot Money platform. So the multi-signature capabilities work in the aspect that for every transaction to be executed, you essentially you can turn it off if you want to, but we encourage users to keep it on. So you have to have two signatures, 2 different wallets, signing each transaction. Now, again, I appreciate for some that's a bit of a pain. It's like, oh, hang on, that means I need to have 2 wallets, and you need to be a little bit organized. Yes, you do, because that's what we're teaching. We're teaching security here. But to loop back to the question here, what we are integrating, we haven't actually rolled it out right yet. We're doing it right now. We're just testing the development of it. Is the second signer will be a user's AI assistant. Every user will have their own AI assistant, which does many things, incidentally, let alone what we're talking about here. It can execute transactions for you. It can autonomously trade for you. But in this particular example, it can be your second signer on your vault. So to answer your question, how is this helping users? One of our selling points is these audited and secure vaults that every user has to protect their assets. One of the reasons it's so secure is because there's these 2 signers. But now if that second signer can be your AI assistant, it kind of makes it a little bit easier for you. So in the onboarding process, we are using AI as much as we can, including in this example, having a personal AI assistant that will be your co-signer for any transactions on your multi-sig vaults. So it's one of the ways that we're integrating AI for our users in our UI.
Let me wear my black hat and ask you a question. How do you define guardrails for the AI assistant to do such a crucial thing? And can your AI assistant really say no?
The AI assistant will check for anomalies, and it will check for addresses that maybe you haven't sent transactions to before. So it will be verifying as much as it can every transaction before it gets executed. So yes, is essentially the answer. As I say, we haven't even executed this ourselves right yet because it's still in the development stage. But that is the goal. Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. So why I'm saying that is that before Memetic, we were doing a lot of research and development in the AI agents as autonomous agents in the economy. And even now, it's not too hard to attack AI agents. There's a plethora of attack vectors.
Yes.
And it's non-trivial to defend against them. I don't want to go too deep, but I think I just I think I might have something to add to the previous question, whether onboarding might be catered towards AI. I think yes. And there's already, I can't call this school of thoughts because they are not yet formed, but at least we have conversations how to properly do LLMs.txt, not just robots.txt. AI agents like Manus, these guys will roam the web autonomously, and what we did testing at Memetic, and again, what we are doing with synthetic audiences, they are being asked all those kind of product research questions, like, can you find something on the website? Of course they can. The problem is they don't buy the purchase. They have to, like, the users and the agents are completely different. They see world differently. And with the current even vision models, they see your website differently. They see your product differently. So we might have to think about how do we actually cater the website to the quote-unquote real humans and to their AI agents. So what Chris said, let's imagine Locked Money's agent will see, like, oh, they're trying to execute transaction that is linked to the website, let's say memetic.inc. What is memetic.inc? It just goes to Memetic and looks at the website and says, well, it looks fishy. Why do they need to do this? Or it's okay. On the side of Memetic, we would have to somehow make the visual representation or the semantic representation for that agent to actually understand what's going on. So I think it will be both. I hope I added something to the conversation, that we will shift towards onboarding, not only with AI, but also for AI. Chris, did it make any sense?
Yeah, no, I'm making notes, Nick. Sorry, I wasn't too sure if you. I'm making notes as you go along. Speak to. I wish actually had our chief technical officer here, because I feel that some of these conversations are probably slightly more in his domain than mine. But
Yeah,
yes,
it
I'm
makes
understanding everything. Sorry, but yes, I understand. What
yeah. Yeah, it makes total sense actually. Like even now, like with Cursor, for example, there's like a really cool option. Like one of the ones that is actually, I think, could be useful is you can just paste like a link to documentation and it will be indexed, and then your model will be in Cursor will be able to answer like more specific questions. So I think in that sense, again, like I said, you do really need to like make sure that your website is like parsable and is accessible to LLM models even now. And I think this is our final question, and I think it's like the mic again to you guys because I don't really have like my own company or startup. So how will AI affect our startups, and what's your take on the future in like from 1 to 10 years? Also considering that AI is now a big part of our industry.
Gosh, Nick, do you wanna
Yeah, I mean, I
answer on that
can.
one?
Let me start with some well, doomer view. And you see, the problem with it is not a problem, but I think AI in its current state challenges most of assumptions of VC-led startups from the last 10 years. Recently, even as far back as 2020 or 2021, a startup might have just discovered some way to optimize a workflow and build everything on top of that, and then be sold to, I don't know, Salesforce. So imagine a startup, and as someone who is responsible for creating animations for startups for like almost 20 years, I've seen a lot of them. There were, let's say, there were at least 3 startups that were based around the idea, oh, you just send your receipt photo and we OCR it, we properly parse it, we do everything with it. Like you can then use it for your tax deductibles. But I built just that in 30 minutes using Gemini. So like it doesn't make any sense to hire dozens of engineers to work on such tasks as 10 years before ago. That's a simple example, but there are more complex examples. Right now, in my opinion, most of companies, large companies, can actually just avoid buying anything from a startup and build agile prototypes and very agile tools within themselves. And large corporations, like again, Salesforce, for example, already provides you an opportunity to do so. Uh, like it challenges the assumption that you can build a startup and quickly sell it to a larger corporation because they might not need it. And that, well, of course, as referring back to what I said before, we solved one bottleneck. Where's the next bottleneck? And I think the next bottleneck will be actually delivering something to the users, the distribution problem. And I really think that AI might, quote unquote, solve some of the technical problems and shift the bottleneck to marketing, distribution, actually learning more what humans need. They honestly, they don't need 10 more apps. And even looking at my oldest daughter, she's recently discovered that you can talk to Siri, and for her it's so easy. I mean, and for me, it was when I was 6 or 9, when I got my first computer, it felt just so natural that I just need to tell the computer what to do and it will do, because it's the thing they do in the movies. And only now they actually can do that. So it's like they should not care, like the new generation of consumers should not care what's the name of a startup. Should not, well, they don't have to. They just have the machine that might cater to their needs. And I mean, unfortunately or unfortunately, referring back to the example with receipts, OCR, large corporations like Google, OpenAI, well, Anthropic to an extent, will just engulf everything around them and make most of startup models just invalidate them. And I think that that's a challenge we'll all have to face. So it's not too rosy of a picture. Back to you, Chris.
Just to you mentioned your daughter. My daughter just discovered on her phone the other day that she can actually speak to people. It's almost like a novel thing. It's like, well, that is what the phone was invented for. It's amazing.
Oh, really?
It's like you don't actually want to talk to people. Well, I mean, you articulated that beautifully, Nick. And again, you've definitely, obviously, you've got your developer's head on. This is kind of an area that I am not in. I'm in marketing and I'm the communications officer. But one thing I would say, how I've already seen, just from a, if you like, almost like a logistical point of view, so certainly not from a developer's point of view, is it's already affecting startups in the fact that there's a lot less costs that we need to put for support staff, just basic stuff like that. 90% of our support now is essentially dealt with AI. So I know that's just kind of a simplistic answer, but for all of us here that are founders, you're saving 5% here, you're saving 3% there. That makes a big difference. So that's how I'm sort of seeing how it's going to shape things for startups over the next few years. It's going to make onboarding, roles and responsibilities a lot easier. You could argue the flip side of that is, what's going to happen to those jobs, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's another turn of this creative destruction. Unfortunately, in my opinion, this wave of creative destruction is way more destructive. Sorry for the pun. And it's not easy. You can't just say, oh, learn to code, oh, learn AI. It doesn't work this way. I mean, also, again, in my opinion, only those who really understand their customers will survive. And those who don't, like all the startups that are technical demos, are doomed to fail. Like, you can do these technical demos and vibe code things all day long. I can make 3, 4, 5 prototypes by the end of the day. But how would I distribute them? That's like the main question. That's why, again, Chris, your perspective, in my opinion, is much more valuable in the future than technical perspective. I also agree that we now save enormously on small tasks. And even imagine, like, a couple of days ago, new GPT-4o with image capabilities dropped. And so many, and I think you might have seen it, many marketing specialists just dropped, like, hey, we can now make banners like that in one click. Just, Ridge Wallet, ads, all that. We'll see it everywhere. Unfortunately, I think we'll also have this fatigue, GPT fatigue, quite fast, as I already can't really go on X, and I'm tired of Studio Ghibli images. Sorry, it's almost impossible.
I know
to bear, but we save a lot, and of course support. The tickets, wow! It's again, I still run a small company that sells software for animation professionals.
Okay.
Our support just like also is more or less automated. We have the database of tickets. We know what to answer. Sorry, yes. I mean, I just look there once a week. What's going on? Oh, things are good. Things are good.
I know, it's absolutely mind-blowing. And that wasn't even a thing a couple of years ago. Out of interest, are you a more ChatGPT than Grok? If you had to use one, which would be your... I'm
all over the place. I don't necessarily for image generation, I think GPT nailed it. But for programming needs, what I mostly communicate with Claude. And Grok, again, it's just too easy because it's there on X, and I can throw my unstructured ideas there, talk to it, have the technical documentation, and then pass it to other tools. So that's kind of it. And with what's happening in this space, in my opinion, AI labs drop the new stuff daily. We at Mimetic are agnostic to the AI models. So we can just switch them around and do all this. And I think most of the companies will not have this devotion. Oh, we're only GPT. You will have it only if on enterprise level you are sold to AWS Bedrock models, and that's what you have to do. So because of the data processing and all that stuff. So it's only then when you have a concrete lock on the model. But as a more agile company, let's say, you should be just switching to the next best thing, maybe weekly, maybe bi-weekly. I don't know.
What do you think about, just as a slight aside, companies that I'm thinking of colleagues of mine that, let's call them, offline businesses, traditional businesses that aren't embracing AI? Do you think they will essentially get left behind?
Oh no, in my opinion, offline businesses are well. I think the properly balanced offline business might be more valuable in the future. I mean, I might be drinking Kool-Aid for what it's worth, but well, first they will not avoid it. All, like, let's say their software for the payment processing, it already has AI. If they go on Facebook or Instagram to advertise, the advertisement platform is already AI powered. They will be given AI tools left and right. They can't ignore it. Of course, when you sell cakes, you can't make cakes with GPT. It doesn't work this way yet.
Well, GPT-5 apparently.
Thank God.
I don't know.
Vegan cupcakes coming to Chat GPT-5. I tell you.
Yeah, maybe. But what I'm saying is that it's just unavoidable. You can't avoid electricity. Well, I mean, you can, but you will have to go great lengths to do this. You can't avoid AI because it's going to be ubiquitous. And again, like AI agents, what we've been working on are just going to be the part of almost every major system that you are going to be working with, because it's so natural to do. Again, in my opinion, what I was saying about the offline businesses is that, well, there's and now again, sorry for a bit of this segue, the dead internet theory that you might have heard about, that the internet is already dead, it's filled with bots. And as someone who's been working on the previous startup for parsing huge amount of social media data, I can definitely say that, well, sometimes more than half of users are bots. So there's an internet for bots, for AI bots, by AI bots. And I mean, humanity is here to stay, and we would have to do something. And recently I had a conversation with someone who's working on HR tech for, hiring AI agent for hiring. And their position is that, well, right now there are so many new tools to actually cheat at this remote hiring process, and it's very hard to detect. So we might want to go back to the in-person interviews at the office, and imagine that within a couple of years,
talking to people, how dare you?
You would not be able to tell whether it's me, real Nick, or you, real Chris or Dari, sitting here casually chatting along. You would not be able to. You might, but I think with the progress that we are seeing, it will be true.
There already is, like Pickle AI.
Yeah, but they're still not as good. They can't do stuff like that. I mean, I can prove that I'm human, but by, I don't know, doing some weird stuff. But then they will start doing weird stuff, and it will be impossible. How would I know? And why would I talk to AI? And then, so you, Chris, are in UK, and I would have to book a flight from Toronto to London and have a conversation with you, or we would just have to have some secret network, AI-less network that would be so expensive to use for real humans, like operational security levels.
Yeah.
I mean, these are wild ideas, but I mean, in a couple of years, we might not. We might look back on it and say, "Oh no, that was not even wild. That was mild." Sorry.
It's a bit like saying, will the Terminator movie in 50 years' time be moved from fiction to non-fiction? Who knows?
To documentary.
Exactly right. The Matrix is a documentary.
Unfortunately, it is.
I know. I mean, I've had this conversation with other colleagues and friends, so yeah, maybe. Guys, it's lovely meeting you both.
Yeah, I would like to continue some of these conversations.
Yeah, it has been super interesting, and I think this was our last questions. I'm not sure if we're taking questions from the audience, if there are any, because I don't know how to find. Okay, we're not. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming and participating. It has been super interesting. Definitely learned a lot, and now have a lot to think about. Thank you, guys.
Whereabouts are you in the world, by the way? I don't know whereabouts. Nick's in Toronto. Where are you in the world?
I am right now in Armenia.
In Armenia.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Have you been to London?
London?
Have you been to London?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Have you been, Nick?
Yeah, I've been there, but it was quite some time ago. It was there before the London Olympics, so
Oh,
2012.
well, if you guys are ever here, it'd be lovely to meet both of you.
Okay, sure. I don't
Yeah.
have your Telegram ID, so let's roll.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time. Very, very nice to meet you.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
Bye.
Thank you for inviting.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you for the invite. And thank you, Neon. Bye-bye.